Hello. Our
Good morning, Swapnil. Good morning, Achal. Good morning, Shripad. Good morning. Good morning, Rathod. Okay, let's recap. So we have gone through the Tughlaq dynasty as well as Sayyid dynasty. So we have considered some of the part of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, who had tried to ban the practices which are termed as non-Islamic. For example, prohibition of worship of the graves of saints by Muslim women. Then jizya became a separate tax. He had refused to exempt Brahmanas from paying jizya. He had imposed new system of taxation, which was according to Quran, and it consists of kharaj, zakat, jizya, and khams. So kharaj is land tax, which was 1/10 of the produce. Zakat, which was 2%, tax on property. Jizya, tax for worship, which was levied on only non-Muslims. Right, it was not for the Muslims. And khams is 1/5 of the booty captured during the war. In order to encourage the agriculture, he had paid enough attention to the irrigation systems, and therefore he had repaired many canals, but at the same time he had imposed water tax as haq-e sharf or hasile sharf. He was a great builder, and therefore some of the cities called Fatehbad, Jaunpur, Hisar, and Firozabad, right, stand to his credit. He had brought 2 pillars of Ashoka to Delhi from Topra, which is in Haryana, and Meerut, which is in Uttar Pradesh. He had also established a hospital at Delhi. The name of that hospital was Dar-ul Shifa. To make the provisions for the marriage of poor girls, he had set up a new department called Diwan-e-Khairat. He had ordered his officials that during the war always attack on the handsome and well-born young boys to make them the slaves. His rule was marked by peace and excuse me. His rule was marked by peace and tranquility because of or the credit of keeping peace and tranquility in the state goes to his prime minister, whose name was Khan-e-Jahan Makbul. After Firoz Shah Tughlaq dynasty could not survive much because Malwa, Gujarat, Jaunpur, so these kingdoms broke down away from Delhi Sultanate. Later on, a Turkish chief called Timur from Mongolia invaded India in 1398. So his army mercilessly sacked and plundered Delhi. And Timur had gone back to Mongolia by nominating Khizar Khan to rule the Punjab. Later on, Khizar Khan captured Delhi, right? And then established Sayyid dynasty. So Khizar Khan was the first, who was the first of Sayyid dynasty, right? So he was from 1414 to 1421. So he ruled over Delhi and surrounding districts. Later on, Mubarak Khan succeeded Khizar Khan from 1421 to 1434. So he was successful in the expeditions against Mewatis, Katichas, and Doab area. He was killed by his nobles. He was killed by the nobles in his own court. Later on, the Muhammad Shah. So nobles put Muhammad Shah on the throne, but who could not survive the infighting among the nobles, and therefore he was only authorizing a mega area, and most of the part was being looked up by the nobles. And the last king of Sayyid dynasty, Shah Alam or Alam Shah, who was the descendant, who descended in favor of Bahlol Lodi and retired. And in this way, the end of Sayyid dynasty was there, and then the beginning of the Lodi dynasty. Right, so Lodi dynasty. So next one you can consider is the Lodi dynasty. So first ruler in this dynasty? Bahlol Lodhi. Bahlol Lodhi, who had reigned from 1451 to 1488. So Bahlol Lodhi was one of the Afghan Sardars, one of the Afghan Sardars. He established himself in Punjab, and later on, he uh, he had established himself in Punjab after invasion of Timurs, and then he founded the Lodi dynasty. So founded Lodi dynasty. Right. Then next one comes in this is Sikandar Lodhi. Sikandar Lodhi was reigned from 1489 to 1517. So Sikandar Lodhi was the son of Bahlol Lodhi, who conquered Bihar and Western Bengal. He had shifted his capital from Delhi to Agra and founded established a city called Agra. So Agra was established by Sikandar Lodhi. And so he shifted his capital from Delhi to Agra. Sikandar Lodhi was very fanatical Muslim, Dharmandasa, fanatical Dharmanda. He was a very fanatical Muslim and broke the sacred images of Jwalamukhi temple. So Jwalamukhi temple, it is a temple of goddess Jwalamukhi in Haryana. So he had broke the sacred images of Jwalamukhi temple and ordered the temples of Mathura to be destroyed. So whatever may be temples at Mathura, they must be destroyed. Right? So he had also ordered for destroying the temples at Mathura because he was a fanatical Muslim. So he took a keen interest in the development of agriculture. As far as agriculture is concerned, he had taken a keen interest in developing the agriculture. And therefore, he introduced the Gaz-e-Sikandari, which was what you can consider Sikandar's yard, right, for measuring cultivated fields. Right. So, he had measured the cultivated field. So obviously it would be for taxation. Right. So that would be the case. So he was a poet and composed poems in Persian with pen name Gul Rukhi. Right. With a name Gul Rukhi. So Sikandar was a son of Bahlol Lodhi. He had conquered Bihar and Western Bengal. He had shifted his capital from Delhi to Agra Here shifted his capital from Delhi to Agra, which was established or founded by himself. So he was a fanatical, Fanatical, fanatical Muslim, fanatical Dharmand. Right? He broke the images of Jwalamukhi temple and ordered to destroy temples at Mathura. Right. So order to destroy temples at Mathura. Right. But he had taken keen interest in development of agriculture. Right. So he had taken keen interest in development of agriculture. So in that case, he had introduced Gaz. In fact, it is a Gaz-e Sikandari. Gaz-e Sikandari. Right. For measuring cultivated fields. Later on, as he was a poet and composed poems in the language Persian. Right. With a name, कवितेचं नाव ठेवतात ना, with the name Gul Rokhi. Right. So that was the end of Sikandar Lodi. After Sikandar Lodi, you have Ibrahim Lodi. So Ibrahim Lodi was from 1517 to 26. 1517 to 1526. Right. So do you remember something by 1526? What had been happened? Right. In 1526. So Ibrahim Lodi was the last king of Lodi dynasty, who was the son of Sikandar Lodi. Right. And perhaps he was the last Sultan of Delhi. Then Delhi Sultanate ceased. Right. Or yes, you. And Delhi Sultanate got first battle of Panipat, right? And Delhi Sultanate got seized or declined. So Ibrahim Lodi, the last king of Lodi dynasty, as well as the last Sultan of Delhi, who was a son of Sikandar Lodi. So if you consider the Afghan nobility was brave and freedom-loving people. But it was because of its Pisiparous and individualistic tendencies. Pisiparous, inclined to cause separate groups. Right. So Afghan nobility was a very brave. See, all these are the Afghan Sardars, right? Or this dynasty belongs to Afghan Sardars. So Afghanis were, or Afghan nobility was a brave and freedom-loving people. But it was because of its pessiparous and individualistic tendencies that Afghan monarchy could not be strengthened, rather it had weakened, right, doubly. And later on, Ibrahim Lodi had asserted the absolute power of the Sultan, right? So as a result of this, some of the nobles had turned against him. So absolute power. So he had used, right? Ibrahim Lodi had used his absolute powers, that is absolute powers of Sultan, and because of that, nobles get angry, and they had turned against Ibrahim Lodi. So at last, the Daulat Khan Lodi, right, who was the governor of Punjab, invited Babur to overthrow Ibrahim Lodi. And Babur had accepted his offer, and he inflicted a crushing defeat of Ibrahim Lodi. So that is in the first battle of Panipat in 1526. In 1526. So Ibrahim Lodi was killed in that battle, and with his end, Delhi Sultanate also ended. Not only the Lodi dynasty, but also Delhi Sultanate as well. Right. So this is what you can consider about Ibrahim Lodi's reign. Right. So here you can consider, so who was last king of Lodi dynasty, and last Sultan of Delhi Sultanate. Delhi Sultanate. So he was son of Sikandar Lodi. He was the son of Sikandar Lodi. Fine. So Lodi had asserted the absolute powers of the Sultan. Therefore, some of the nobles turned against him. Some of the nobles turned against him. Okay, if anybody wants, you can. Done? Okay, fine. So later on, Governor of Punjab, Daulat Khan Lodhi. Daulat Khan Lodhi invited Babur, right, to overthrow Ibrahim Lodhi. So Babur had also accepted and inflicted a crushing defeat on Ibrahim Lodi, right? So Babur defeated Ibrahim Lodi in first battle of Panipat. First battle of Panipat, which was in 1526, right? And Ibrahim Lodi killed. So Lodi killed, right, in this one. And in this way, Delhi Sultanate ended. So Delhi Sultanate ended. See, this is not only Ibrahim Lodi's reign responsible for end of Delhi Sultanate, but also there are some of the causes which you can consider. Because of that, the Delhi Sultanate had declined. Right? So the very first thing you can consider among the causes of decline of Delhi Sultanate. So they had a despotic and military type of government. So we did not have the confidence of people in the government. Right? So what could be the causes you can overall consider? So causes of decline of Delhi Sultanate. Right? So causes of decline of Delhi Sultanate. Now, first you can consider, right? So no confidence of people in government. Then degeneration of Delhi Sultanate, right? You know, especially the 5 projects which had been taken by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Then consequently, the incompetence of Firoz Tughlaq, right? So a degeneration of Sultanate. Degeneration of Sultanate. Right. आजच्या काळामध्ये आपण हा अभ्यास करू शकतो की एक सरकार कसं जातं, दुसरं सरकार कसं येतं, राईट? व्हॉट वुड बी द रिझन्स, आणि खरे रिझन्स. बरं, तुमच्याकडे ताकद आहे म्हणून तुम्ही काही करू शकता. नो, इट वॉज नॉट ए काइंड ऑफ थिंग. सो degeneration of the Sultanate, sorry, So greed and competency, greed and incompetency of nobles. लालची स्वभाव असणं